Look, this has been going on for a long time. We can talk about education.
Yes.
Schooling is what I call it. It's not education. So we have a system of schooling in the country, which is why we are becoming more and more stupid and stupefied as a nation. It's not a bad thing to have money necessarily, but money is not the answer, and it's not the highest value. You think about the people that you love. You think about relationships. And we have put that aside at our own peril because we are losing our entire culture because we've sacrificed relationship for money.
I think these are not bad people. These are good people.
They've never been tested.
They've never
and when
been
they've been tested, perhaps they've failed. If you were a pedophile, where would you go to find children?
Schools, Boy Scouts, churches.
Way back when, on their website, they advocated for joining the Boy Scouts. They advocated. They said if you want to have sex with little boys, the Boy Scouts is a great resource for finding and grooming and procuring.
What is your price? Because if your price is not your life, then you are for sale. Welcome back to The Price is My Life. I'm joined today by Sam Sorbo. Sam Sorbo has focused heavily on empowering parents through homeschooling initiatives. Her recent work includes The Parent's Guide to Homeschool, Making Education Easy and Fun, a comprehensive workbook offering practical guidance for homeschooling parents. She hosts the Sam Sorbo Show and Schools Out with Sam Sorbo on EpochTV, challenging conventional education and promoting parental involvement. Sorbo founded the They're Your Kids Foundation to advocate for educational freedom and parental rights. Sam is on the front lines of speaking out for the rights of parents in the face of intimidation from the federal government under the Biden administration. We recall how mothers were raided by the FBI. We have that in common. And leads the Parents Demanding Justice Alliance group, which is exposing the corruption and oppression of parents across America. We have the testimonies of parents targeted by the DOJ weaponization. And we'll jump right into it. But before we get into all of this school board stuff, I just kind of want to talk to you about your experience in Hollywood for a minute. And you're a public figure. You're married to Kevin Sorbo, and you came to my film Line in the Sand, and I got a chance to have dinner with you, and I really enjoyed our conversation, particularly about being a public figure and being a conservative in Hollywood. Just talk about that for a minute. What that was like for you, and what made you decide to come out with your beliefs in Hollywood?
Well, Hollywood was conservative. And by the time I got there, it wasn't so noticeably not conservative. It was fairly neutral. But I think once Obama was elected, it became very polarized very quickly. And so maybe a little bit under Bush. I don't think I was really there for that. We lived in New Zealand and we lived in Canada. But when we got back to Hollywood, it had gone kind of off the rails, and people were getting more and more polarized. And so it wasn't that we were sort of on the outs. We just said our piece, and it didn't go well.
What year was this?
I'm thinking 2008.
Obama.
Yeah.
I've had a number of people tell me that the Obama era is really when things just
changed. That's when we moved back to Hollywood. We had been out of the country up until basically that point. And so we got back to Hollywood, and we started. There was a clandestine group that was formed called Friends of Abe, and I started.
I maybe saw you there, 2010 or so.
Yeah. And so we got that started, and slowly realized that there was really a battle. I mean, I remember Kevin coming home from an audition, and the audition was for the bad guy, and there was a good girl. And the interviewer, the casting person was like, okay, so just think of it this way. So the good girl, that's like Chelsea Clinton. Like, she's just really good and positive and loving, and you're the bad guy. So you're like Bush. And that's how
That's what the casting director
said. That was her language. So they had started to adopt very politicized language to express themselves. And so that was a shift.
And how did you handle that at the time?
Well, he was quiet in that particular audition because there's no reason to lose a job over, that. But I think he was more shocked than anything, like, wow. So tell me how you really feel.
Wow.
And then he just started speaking out because he won't stay quiet with that. But it wasn't, he didn't get into fights with people over politics. He just said truthful things, and they decided that they didn't like that.
And just briefly, how did that go when he did come out, when you did come out?
Oh,
what was that like?
Well, at a certain point, his manager and his agent did basically an intervention, and they said, we can't work with you anymore.
Can't work with you anymore.
Yeah.
So it hurt.
Yes.
Professionally.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, we kind of thought that maybe things weren't going to go that well, but we didn't think it was going to be just, we can't work with you anymore.
It was very, very blunt.
Yeah. Very, very cut and dry. We're done.
Mm-hmm. Did a lot of people reach out to you? A lot of other people?
No.
No,
it wasn't publicized. It wasn't like this big thing, like now Kevin Sorbo will not be working in Hollywood. It was just this very quiet, and that's how they kill people, right? Wow. They do it very quietly, unless they want you to know. I'm talking about the communists, obviously. In which case they come in the middle of the night and they make a fuss so that everybody knows that they come for you in the middle of the night. But in Hollywood, it's typically much less obvious than that.
And on the show Hercules, had Kevin come out publicly yet with his beliefs?
Not really. No. He was just he's Minnesota. He's just Minnesota nice. Mm-hmm. He's just a good guy. And there wasn't that much reason to be that political. Look, the country used to be Democrats and Republicans, and everybody was pro-life because life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Democrats started to go off the rails when they were captured by the feminists who are pro-death. That sect, and the communists, who are also pro-death, that sect shifted the Democrat Party. So now we are at odds as to the very definition of life. Like at the most fundamental level, these two parties are completely at odds. And the problem is that the nation itself is one direction. America is for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and life being the first thing. So if you are not for life, then it's very difficult to make the case that you're pro-America.
This is James O'Keefe. You know me for exposing the truth and holding the powerful accountable. But today, I want to talk to you about protecting your own freedom, starting with your finances. Right now, the warning signs are everywhere. The Fed continues to print money, interest rates and inflation remain high, and everywhere you look, your hard-earned money just doesn't go as far as it used to. That's not your imagination, it's today's reality. If central banks are loading up on gold, why not you? That's why I've now partnered with American Independence Gold. They're veteran-owned, and proceeds from every sale go to Tunnel to Towers, supporting our first responders and heroes. And listen, right now, the first 50 customers get a $1,000 credit towards their account. That's right, $1,000 to help you get started protecting your wealth with real, physical gold. Don't wait for the next crisis. Go to O'KeefeMediaGold.com, that's OKEEFE MediaGold.com, or 833-324-GOLD. Again, that's O'KeefeMediaGold.com or 833-324-GOLD. Take action, get the facts, and protect your future, because freedom isn't given, it's secured. This is James O'Keefe. Don't just watch history, own a piece of it. So did you have any regrets over anything you did or what happened?
No.
No regrets?
No. You live in the moment. And I make a point of not having regrets in my life. I think it's silly to regret. If you make a mistake, you fix it and you move on. But Kevin wishes that Hollywood were different. He wishes for the old Hollywood. And
when did that change, old Hollywood to new?
60s.
In the 60s?
Yeah, pretty much in the 60s. Look, this has been going on for a long time. We can talk about education.
Yes.
Schooling is what I call it. It's not education. So we have a system of schooling in the country, which is why we are becoming more and more stupid and stupefied. as a nation. So very difficult to have, profound conversations with people. People have become less thoughtful, less full of
They
thought.
also don't read anymore, I
That's
find.
right, less full of thought,
They
right?
don't read. I'm reading.
They don't read. They don't read to improve themselves. They don't want to know that much. They're happy to binge on Netflix or whatever.
On Instagram.
And doom scrolling.
Doom scrolling.
Right? This is a product of our schooling. Our schooling has dumbed us down. And that's why I'm such a staunch advocate for home education.
So let's talk about that. So what are you working on right now?
So Parents Demanding Justice is a new organization that I formed with Kelly Walker. Kelly Walker is maybe the first or one of the very first parents that was targeted by his school board. And what happened to him is such an egregious betrayal of our justice system, say. So he had a meeting. He and two fathers went to this meeting with the principal on behalf of one of those fathers, on behalf of his child. This was about masking. This is back in, I think, 21. And they sat down. They had a very peaceful meeting. There was a disagreement. They disagreed. They had different opinions. That happens. They left the meeting. The superintendent made an announcement saying the meeting was peaceful and everybody left and everything's fine. And then 3 days later, each of those gentlemen were arrested. They went to their houses.
What state is this?
This is in Arizona. And Kelly, because he had a coffee shop where people were meeting and disagreeing with the mandates that were being passed around, they decided to make an example of him. So while the other two gentlemen got a $250 fine for trespassing, he got a $10,000 fine and 100 days in jail. And they targeted his business, and they had to shut down the business.
Who's they?
The school board people and the people that they got in law enforcement to help effectuate.
Sheriff's office or local sheriff? And what, you know where this is in Arizona? What county?
It's in Vail County, Arizona.
Vail County.
He eventually moved. But the problem is he still has an arrest on his record. Why? They threw out the charges, but the arrest is still there. They need to take the arrest off his record. They need to give him back the $10,000 that they stole from his account. And he's not the only one. We have a lawyer in Pennsylvania who spoke at a school board meeting, and the board decided they didn't like what he had to say. So they sent a note to his employer and said, fire this guy. We just had another case in Arizona, actually, again, of a professor who spoke at a school board meeting on behalf of his kids. And the school board, whoever on the school board, called his employer and had him fired. He's a professor. They fired him from the university. And there's a nonprofit legal group that's taking it up, and they're going to pursue it because he was unjustly terminated.
And that's another challenge, is getting the attorneys to step up and defend people who are prosecuted. We need more nonprofit legal groups to help people, I think.
Yes, and sadly, we shouldn't need them, right? But this shouldn't be happening. But we have such a betrayal of American values, and especially in our schools, which is the formation of the next generation. Right. And so, for instance, if you're pro-Second Amendment, if you think that people should have the right to bear arms, that's great. But all the kids who go to school today are being taught that the Second Amendment is terrible and we should vote it out. And so in 10 years, they will vote it out.
So I have on September 29th, 2021, the National School Board Association sent a letter to the DOJ asking for immediate assistance with the growing number of threats. If we could pull that letter up on the screen. Growing number of threats of violence and acts of intimidation being levied at various school boards across the country. And
they always claim violence. They always claim there was no violence. Jim Jordan did the research, had a congressional committee research this. There was absolutely no violence.
And it says on September 29th, it says, NSBA believes immediate assistance is required to protect our students, the National School Boards Association.
Yes.
What is the National School Boards Association?
It's the organization that promotes the school boards and trains them.
It's like the National Education Association, like a union for school
Correct.
boards? Okay. And educators who are susceptible to acts of violence affecting interstate commerce. Almost like they're using the Commerce Clause there.
It's almost like they made it a federal issue.
Yes. because of threats to their districts, families, and they use the same kind of irrational logic in addressing the journalism that I do. Like
Yes.
someone will get an anonymous death threat from a random commenter with no
Right. And it's suddenly your
following,
fault.
and somehow I'm responsible for I'm promoting death threats.
Right.
That's what I find that they've done that.
Well,
a long time.
look, this is a typical tactic of the left. And you have testimony from Merrick Garland saying, no, it was just the violent parents that we were concerned about. But there were no violent parents. But, if you're a leftist, words are violence.
Words are violence. That's
So
right. If you're a Marxist.
They
Quote,
just justify it.
as these acts of malice, violence, and threats against public school officials have increased, the classification of these heinous actions should be equivalent to a form of domestic terrorism and hate crimes. As such, NSBA requests a joint expedited review by the U.S. Department of Justice, Education, Homeland Security. By the way, as we're talking about this, Andrew, pull up the video we did in New Jersey of the teachers. This is a school board that I went to. I just want to show you. Andrew, get that clip up. This is the I went to New Jersey and I filmed a school board meeting. I just showed up, just by way of example. And it was so interesting to watch the tyranny of these school board officials. They called the police. The police came. They said, they look Trumpish. They look like Trump. I don't even know what that means. They look Trumpish. I was wearing a blazer and a button-down shirt. But it was fascinating to see the psychology. We'll pull that up and talk about that. So this is the letter, September 29th, 2021. This prompted a memo from the DOJ on October 4th, a memo now calling the Garland memo, which states the DOJ would discourage and prosecute the threats. And is that kind of what was your motivation?
Yes.
Seeing all this just created righteous indignation?
Well, my motivation was seeing all the parents. And understanding that there are a lot of parents whose lives have been ruined and their children's lives have been threatened and ruined. And we can't allow that. Here, okay, I will tell you my motivating, because I understand as a home educator, I understand better than many that the number one indicator for academic success for a child is parental involvement. So we should be seeking to have parents more involved in education, not less. So therefore, schools or school boards that seek to marginalize parents are not for the academic success of that child. So then you have to ask what they are for. Well, they're for porn in the schools. And
pornography in the schools.
Yeah, pornography. And porn is the first step towards trafficking a child. You show them porn.
It's like a gateway drug.
It desensitizes them. And so then they're more easily trafficked.
Yeah, it's
and yes, I am saying that they want to have sex with our kids.
Yeah.
Because I say that now because it's so evidently true.
One quick story. I want to tell you two quick stories. Andrew, let's pull up the clip, not of the going to the board meeting, but actually the body cam footage video that came shortly thereafter. I went back to my school board meeting in New Jersey, where I'm from. I had a pretty okay public school experience in New Jersey. It wasn't that bad. The only thing I didn't like about my public school experience was they taught me about like AIDS in I was in 4th grade, and it was a little graphic. And I don't need to see like anal sex stuff.
That was the only thing.
It was one of the.
Don't say that was the only thing. That was horrifying.
It was horrifying for me. I remember being horrified.
That was horrible.
Because they were talking about anal sex, and I was like 9.
There's very little good that can actually mitigate that.
I actually had to go to the bathroom, and I almost fainted because I was just squeamish hearing about this sort of thing.
They were grooming you.
That's what it. I didn't know what that was.
Of course, you don't know. You're in 4th grade.
But I will say, I went back to my high school board meeting 2 years ago, and I did not go as a journalist. I went as a member of the tax-paying public. And when I went there, half of the auditorium was filled with LGBT flags, and there were men wearing dresses. And I graduated high school in 2002. We just didn't really. It seems like things have really changed.
Yes, really.
Over the last 10, 15 years. What do you attribute that change to?
That's a good question. I don't care. I just know that it's done. Mm-hmm. I can conspiracy theorize all you want. I just know that that's what's happening. And the only way to protect children is not to put them in there. But the second way to protect children is to try to get them out of there.
So you advocate homeschooling children across
Well,
the
I
board.
advocate homeschooling because school will never beat homeschooling for the parents or the child. School can never compete, really. Homeschooling has a much better academic outcome. It has a much better social outcome. The outcomes are much better, and the children are more protected. That said, my heart breaks for the children who are in school. And so whatever I can do to help the parents who feel that they are obliged to put their child in that environment, I will do. I cannot sit by and watch these people run ramshot over these parents. Now, the parents are individuals, and so they've divided and conquered. They have the NSBA. They've got the union behind them. They've got law enforcement behind them. They get to dictate to law enforcement. We had one board member who decided he didn't like one of the dads who spoke at the school board meeting. So he got law enforcement, and he said to law enforcement, "This guy's not allowed on school property. I'm the school board member, and I get to decide who comes on school property." So the dad goes to pick up his kid, gets arrested for trespass.
Guys, can we put that video back up on the screen? This is body cam footage obtained off of the police officers' body cam footage in New Jersey. And what's remarkable is we all know these stories. Just change the names, change the town. I attended the school board meeting, and they called the police on me. I just spoke at the board meeting, and
they're talking about you like we don't know who he is.
Into the policeman's camera, and he forgot that he's wearing a camera.
Right,
so
we don't know who this people is, and we don't believe that.
One solution is when they call the police on citizens to FOIA the body cameras, and to do this sort of thing across when I did this, I thought people should be doing this en masse.
You're absolutely right. And these are working parents, and they don't have the resources or the time. They're trying to get by. And by the way, when a police officer comes for you at a school, we have a parent in Florida who just stood up at a school board meeting and told the woman, the president of the school board, that she shouldn't be celebrating the death of a MAGA because it's one less MAGA person in the world. She represents all the people of her district, not just the non-MAGA people. And he got booed because the entire room was filled with the LGBT crowd, whatever. And the police escorted him out, infringing on his right to speech.
Wow.
And what's he going to do?
Well, you mentioned that people don't have the resources and they're just trying to live their lives.
This is my point, they're individuals. All of our parents are just individuals. This is why they're falling through the cracks. They're just individuals. They're just trying to get by, but they're trying to protect their kids. So they're brave enough to stand up at a school board meeting, but the school boards have the NSBA. They've got law enforcement. They've got everything. They've got
Why
the
do they have
purse.
law enforcement? That I don't understand. Because law enforcement is, by and large, relatively conservative compared to the rest of the world. Are they just following orders?
Yes.
They're just following orders.
In fact, Kelly was speaking with the law enforcement, and he was like, "Guys, some of you know me. Like, why are you doing this?" And they're like, "Well, they don't want to lose their jobs. Nobody wants to lose their jobs. Do you know why?
Nobody wants to lose their jobs.
Do you know why? Because we went to school, and in school we learned that money is the highest value.
Interesting.
And so we have no more morality. We've lost integrity. We have no honor, because money has replaced all of those things in our culture."
I agree with you.
I know.
I think that this is someone made this argument recently. I read it's like if you actually ask the question why 5 times about why you're doing what you're doing. Oh, why do you want to get a good grade? Well, because it helped me get a good job.
Right.
Why do you want to get a good job?
Right.
Because it'll help me earn a living. Why do you want to? And it actually fundamentally questions the philosophical underpinnings of your essence, why you're doing
Our
it.
entire culture is built on this idea that money is the highest value. And that's a very dangerous idea, because it leads young women to abort their babies.
Right.
This is Moloch. This is, sacrificing your child.
And your son wrote a book
for money
recently about, I talked to your son. I hung out with your son. He's a really cool guy. I intend to have him on to talk about his
He's
book.
not even my favorite.
He's not even your favorite. I actually worked out with your son, and he's a big guy.
He's a big guy.
And it's tough in Southeast Florida too, with the culture here and women. We were talking about that. And money is the ultimate thing they teach you. You're saying in school they teach
college
you
prep and career readiness. School is for college prep and career readiness. If you're talking about the why, right?
Yeah.
Why do you go to school? To get an education. Why? To go to college. Why? Well, college gets you a better paying job.
Why?
It's all about a better paying job.
And then why? And then you really start to get philosophical about why do you need a better paying job and that kind
Because
of thing.
money is happiness. Money is success. So I was very lucky. I made a lot of money as a young person. And
How did you do that?
I modeled. I was an international model. And so I finally quit school, which was very hard for me because I was an academic and I loved learning. I did not like school, but I did love to learn. And I finally was like, well, I can earn a lot of money and do everything else I want, or I can just learn the stuff that I want to learn and spend money and go into debt, right, in college. And so when I did that, I started to think about what life was really about, because that was the brass ring that I was always taught: go earn money. That's your highest value, earn money. Make sure you can earn money. And I was raised by a single mom. So her whole thing was, I didn't go to college. That was such a dumb move because now I have no money. And so I went on a search after that, and I realized that there is a higher order to the universe than money.
When did you stop? How old were you when you stopped modeling?
Early 20s, I started acting.
You didn't go to college?
I did. I went to Duke University.
Duke.
I studied biomedical engineering.
Biomedical engineering from Duke. That's not an inexpensive school.
No,
Yeah.
I was going into massive debt. And so I had the choice, and I had to take a year off from school because I was working on an ulcer, because I was so anxious about being able to earn money.
It is anxiety provoking.
Well, school is anxiety provoking, which is a learning inhibitor.
And biomedical engineering at Duke, that can't be easy coursework.
It was very difficult until I went off and earned a ton of money. And then when I went back, it was the easiest thing ever because the anxiety was gone. It was like super easy. It was kind of crazy. And so through that, I figured I figured out a lot. And the one thing that I figured out is that money is not the answer. Money helps. Don't get me wrong. It's good to have money. It's not a bad thing to have money necessarily, but money is not the answer, and it's not the highest value. And when you die, you don't say, I wish I'd spent more time at the office. I wish I'd made a better deal on that one thing that I did, whatever. You think about the people that you love. You think about relationships. And we have put that aside at our own peril, because we are losing our entire culture because we've sacrificed relationship for money.
Has this been true? Is it getting worse?
Yes, because every decade or every generation that sends their children to an alternate authority loses a, how if you're copying digitally, you'll lose pixels or whatever. We're losing pixels every generation. So now we are a largely unparented society. Parents don't know how to parent, so they're happier to send their children away from them because they don't know how to manage it. And we're losing the family. And the family is the bedrock of our culture.
People think money is the solution, or what did you say it was? It was the answer. It was the
it's not the answer. It's helpful.
But
money,
people think that it is the answer.
Right. Money is useful, but it's not the answer. And if you sell your grandmother because you can get $10 million, you will be a very miserable person.
What is the answer?
Honor.
Honor. Explain what you mean by that.
Living a morally righteous life is probably the best answer.
And what is a morally righteous life?
Doing unto others as you would have done unto you.
The golden rule.
It's the golden rule. And it's the rule on which our entire culture was predicated. And that's why it's falling apart now, is because we've sacrificed that. And so, you and I were talking about trying to get parents demanding justice taken care of in Washington, D.C. So we've drafted a draft executive order. This is a national issue. This is a federal issue. It should be handled by the federal government. But getting things done in Washington, I haven't tried doing anything like this before. It's very frustrating. The wheels in Washington move exceedingly slowly, if they move at all. And part of that is because money is the highest value.
Even in Washington.
especially in Washington.
People think politics is about doing the right thing and solving
Even the
society's
people,
problems.
Madison Cawthorn talked about this. Even if you go in wanting to do the right thing and really believing that you can do the right thing, they will compromise you in some way that you will be forced to do the wrong thing.
Blackmail.
Yes.
That's a story that needs to be told.
That's a story
more.
that,
and Cawthorn
right?
tried telling that.
He
story.
tried, and then
sex parties and all those things.
And then they got him on. So I can't remember what they got him on, but he's done.
We never even remember the pretense that they use. They just get people.
They remove them.
They remove them. I mean, I was removed from the organization I created, which was its own type of trauma, but it happens to everybody. But going back to what you said about honor, I mean, I think I've thought about this a lot, the money thing. And you came to my screening of the film Line in the Sand, where I literally called it Line in the Sand. It was a film about the border, but it was also a film about human nature.
Right.
And all these border patrol agents don't want to lose their jobs. And I gave this talk, and this is the title of our podcast here, The Price is My Life, to this group of men twice my age in New York City at Socrates in the City. And I said, if your price is not your life, then you are for sale.
I remember that.
And people...
They were
Again,
awestruck.
men who are twice my age audibly gasped.
Yes, they were awestruck.
I don't even, it's so, to someone like you, it's so self-evident, it doesn't even need to be explained. But it's almost like people don't, I think these are not bad people. These are good people.
They've never been tested.
And when
they've been tested, perhaps they've failed. And they've justified it because you can rationalize anything.
Well, there's a philosophical, and then there's in the world, in the arena. You mean they've never been tested in real life in this way?
Yeah.
So the thought has never occurred to them, or they don't think about that?
The audible gasp, I believe the audible gasp that you heard, because I watched it, was that this was such a profound thought, and it required them to think more, right? My price is my life. It sounds otherworldly,
outlandish,
right?
Yeah.
And yet it's profound. It's meaningful. It's Christ.
It's Christ.
So
it's biblical.
It's deeply religious, right? And it requires you to think about it. My son Braden, who wrote his second book, was Embrace Masculinity. He says, if you don't work out, you don't have an opinion. In other words, if you don't keep up your physical strength, then you don't have the strength to hold an opinion, because the moment that your opinion is challenged, you won't be able to defend it. So you really don't have the luxury of having an opinion. Now, I don't know if I fully agree with that, but I hadn't heard that before, and it struck me.
I've never heard that before.
Right? It struck me, and I'm like, there is something to that. How strongly can you hold an opinion if you're not willing to pay for it?
He's talking about you need physical strength to defend your opinion, as well as moral strength.
And we know that there's a mind-body connection.
Yes. Yeah.
So
I always say, people say, "Oh, you look like you're working out." I say, "Strong body, strong body, strong mind."
Right.
That's a different way of saying that, I suppose, but that makes perfect sense to me. You can't defend something unless you are strong enough to defend it. And
if you can't defend it, then do you really have it? Do you really feel that way? Can you can pretend that you feel that way. You can pretend that you're very staunch, but when push comes to shove, if you're not ready to bear arms.
Well, going back to what you're talking about here, and you and I could talk about this.
We're wandering everywhere.
I might have to bring you back to round 2, because you and I could talk about this for 2 hours. We've got a lot to cover in the next 30 minutes. We're standing up to the powers that tried to discredit us, silence us, smear us, raid us, and throw us in jail. They've awakened a sleeping giant. We're building a movement of transparency and accountability in both the public and private sectors, because we run from nothing, we hide from nothing. And when you join and get your full access pass, you fuel a movement for truth. We are the media now. It seems to me that most people's price I don't even think it's millions and millions of dollars. It seems like it's like $80,000 a year or something like that.
It's the lack of pain. We are so afraid of suffering because of how I think we've been convinced there's a pill for that or whatever. And so we're so afraid to suffer. And suffering is perceived as losing a job, taking a pay cut, not being able to subscribe to Netflix or whatever. Like, we just want to avoid suffering, any kind of suffering, any kind of of upheaval or problem.
Or changed to our life?
Maybe even change, right? Change is hard.
And you're saying the school system, the public school system, the conditioning has made us this way for the most part.
Oh, I can guarantee it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at a homeschooler, even if they are schooled at home, they still have opportunity to go explore and make mistakes and suffer. Whereas if you're in the institution all day long, you have much less opportunity to try to start a business, to mow the neighbor's lawn, to whatever, all of those things. That you become much more dependent. And in school, you become dependent on being told, this is what you need to know. This is what you have to learn. This is how you solve that problem. And so when you finish school, you are not a problem solver. You are an implementer of other people's strategies, perhaps, right? You don't, and that's why colleges are recruiting homeschoolers, because they know that homeschoolers think outside the box. But if you grow up inside the institution, you've boxed in your thinking because of that. And I'm not saying for every single child, right? We're talking in generalities. But by and large now in the schools, they slow everything down for almost the slowest child, which makes it boring for the faster children. Some children excel in math, some excel in reading because that's their proclivity, right? And so the children will suffer because they're held up by the other children.
And is it all about money with the unions and the board? It's about power and money, I assume. What's your thought on that?
So there's a nefarious element. Let me ask you this. If you were a pedophile, where would you go to find children?
Schools, Boy Scouts, churches.
So NAMBLA, the North American Man-Boy Love Association, which was largely dismembered, but not really. It doesn't have the power that it did have. But way back when, on their website, they advocated for joining the Boy Scouts. They advocated. They said if you want to have sex with little boys, the Boy Scouts is a great resource for finding and grooming and procuring. So I think with the advancement of anything goes in terms of sexuality, and the development of this idea that it's pretty easy to run for school board and get on a school board. There is a nefarious element now that has infected
a sexual
our school. Absolutely,
element.
yes.
So power, money, and sex.
Yes.
There's the third one, and perhaps sex.
Perversion. Let's call it perversion.
Sexual perversion.
I mean, Kinney, right? Kinney developed the what you were taught in fourth grade, right? The guy who developed our sex ed program did experiments on babies, sexual experiments on babies. Mm-hmm. And that was his claim. That was his claim to fame. That's what gave him the notoriety to design our sex ed curriculum for schools. They sold us sex ed for schools. They sold it to us promising that it would reduce the number of teenage pregnancies. The number of teenage pregnancies skyrocketed, but no one did the research after the fact to go, well, that didn't work out so well.
I remember being in fourth grade and I got that anal sex education class or whatever it was about AIDS. And the AIDS crisis was just ending. But I remember feeling so uncomfortable. And my teacher, I went to the bathroom and my teacher came to me and said, are you ashamed? Do you feel uncomfortable about yourself? Or it was weird. But that was, I mean, how am I supposed to know if it's bad or good in the sense that I don't know what to compare it to?
As a fourth grader?
I don't know.
You're not meant to know.
I think it's much worse today.
You're meant to not make a judgment. Our schools have taught us the lack of discernment. So we refuse to make judgments, which is why I get on people's nerves, because I'm very quick to judge.
Objectively, like when you're young and you're going through that, you don't know.
You don't know.
You don't know what's different. I went back to my school, 2 years ago, and it was much different than it was in the 90s. I mean, it was there was a couple gay people, but there weren't really that out, and certainly men wearing dresses. But I mean, when I went back, there were guys in dresses with beards. Like they didn't even care. They didn't even try to be girls. It was just crazy.
No, it's one of our parents in St. Louis, in the most conservative district in St. Louis, took her 4-year-old to the library to get a library card. And the chief librarian there that was in charge of that was a cross-dressing tranny who wore fishnets and the shortest mini skirt so that you were afraid that you would catch a glimpse of something.
Is this a guy being
A
a
guy
girl?
is a guy.
Or a girl trying to be a guy?
A guy dressing like a whore.
Oh, I see. Did they have surgeries or
I don't know, but a bearded guy dressing like a whore.
did they still have the beard?
Yes.
Yeah. That's
And so the point, and so she reached out to the head of the library to have a discussion with him, and he refused to meet with her until she pressed him, and then he finally agreed to meet with her, and then when she showed up, and she brought 65 people with her because he said to her, "No one else has complained. You're the only person who complains about this individual," and I mean, fishnets and 5-inch heels in front of a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
It's not appropriate.
no.
And all she was saying was, could he dress more appropriately? Not could he get fired, but just, there are dress codes. And just because you're a tranny doesn't mean you can just run ramshot over all the dress codes that we have in our society. I didn't come here in a bikini.
There's there's an underlying perverse sexual element in the power money dynamic that
And so
exists.
she shows up for the meeting, and there's police cars, and there are a bunch of protesters. LGBT protesters.
So let's go back to these police officers. I think this is fascinating. These are relatively conservative compared to the cross-dressing trannies. As a rule, police officers are generally more conservative.
Well, they're called because there might be some upheaval. So we need you there because there might be some
they're
upheaval.
following orders. They're following orders.
And they are to keep the peace. And so they're seeing, okay, we've got people on the trans side and we've got people on the not trans side, and we're just here to keep the peace. But she goes into the library and they say, oh, he canceled the meeting. So they just lie because clearly he didn't cancel the meeting. The protesters were there. They called the police. Something was happening. And then they got a photo of him hiding behind a pillar upstairs.
Hiding behind a pillar?
Yes, because he did not want to have the meeting.
Hiding behind a pillar. That would be a
And
good
so
thing.
she said, how did he cancel the meeting? He doesn't have any way of contacting me. And nobody contacted me. But it's all the same idea.
What's the solution to all this?
The solution is to make parenting great again.
So it
The
starts with
solution is for
families.
parents to understand that they've been entrusted with their children by a higher power and to take that responsibility very seriously. And it is more important than money.
That's going to be a hard thing, a hard current to swim against.
Yeah, well, we have the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, so we can go down that path. That's one option. The town folk wanted to have sex with angels, and now they want to have sex with children. But I would just encourage parents, look, it's just you and your kids. And it's you and your kids for the rest of your life. And so your job is to protect your children, and that should be the most important thing on your books.
But I also think, my reaction to that is, hey guys, pull up that beginning of that school board meeting if you have it, is I want to help vis-a-vis citizen journalism, investigative journalism. But I like what you said, what your son said. You have to be so strong to fight against this evil.
Well, this is a very, very strong statement.
It is.
I am willing to go to the death.
You basically have to
If
give up your life.
If you're willing to go to the death, you better work out. Because at least you can forestall something, right?
What does the scripture say? Something to the effect of, greater love hath
no man than this, that he lay down his life for his friend.
For his friends. Lay down his life for his friends. Because if you're not willing to lay down your life, then you're going to be tested. You're going to be, just tested. Okay, just play 30 seconds of this because I think it sets up a practical conversation about where to go from here. I want to equip people with cameras in the school boards. I want to equip parents because I think the light, they're
different looking. They look Trumpish.
They look Trumpish.
So it's just amazing that they've drawn the battle lines. We're the ones who are sitting here going, really? There's a war?
Okay, here's my reaction to that. It requires an unbelievable amount of strength. Because I think that's really what it's about. I mean, yes, giving up your life, that's true, but you may not have to get that far. I think it requires an unbelievable amount of strength and like you have to endure unbelievable amounts of pain to stand up to the evil that you're describing.
You know what? It's really very simple. Do you love truth? And in my fourth grade, I discovered that I love truth. I had a really seminal moment where I discovered that the truth was the best version of everything. And so if you're willing to, so you just have to decide, do I believe in truth? And if you believe in truth, then you have to be willing to stand for it. And then it becomes easy.
What go back to your fourth grade. What caused you to have that epiphany?
It's kind of silly. The teacher asked a question: what is 10 divided by 1/2 plus 2? And he went around the class and everybody said 7. And he got to me and he said, so you say it's 7? And I said, no. And this was a difficult moment for me. My palms were sweaty. I was like scared. And he said, well, that's silly because everybody says it's 7. What do you say it is? And I said, it's 22. And he said, well, should we throw her out the window? And then I was right. And I really enjoyed that. I was like, okay, it's good to be right. It's correct to be right. I'm like anxious right now because I'm reliving that moment.
You liked it because you felt it was good to be.
Because it's true. Because I knew the truth.
You knew the truth.
And so I said, oh no, that's wrong. Mm-hmm. And we have to be willing to do that. Mm-hmm. We have to be willing to do that for children. And if we are not, then we are useless. Mm-hmm. We are terrible, terrible people. And unfortunately, because we lack discernment, I think there are so many people who are not only not willing to stand up for children, but they're not even willing to condemn themselves for not doing it.
Well, Pete, maybe people have to live through what you lived through in that moment somehow. If that was your proximate cause, if that was the thing that did it for you, I'm just trying to figure out how we can motivate people then, how we can get people to care. That's something that we need to do. You have to stand up.
They care when their child is killed by a school shooter. They start to care. I don't know. We used to teach people the Bible. We used to teach them what morality really was, what it meant, that it's important. And, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. We used to have that as an adage.
Most people don't know what that means.
Right?
It's one thing to read it in a book, like say being raided by the FBI. If you read about it or watch a movie or whatever the shows are, or every show is about the FBI and cops these days.
Yeah.
But when they actually come to your house, and
right,
like they did with my colleagues with the jackets and the guns, to live it is a different thing.
To get handcuffed and put out on your front lawn in front of your kids
which
while
is what
they
happened
raid your
with
house.
These mothers.
Yes.
And after that happened to the mothers, did you know some of these people? You've read their stories. How did that affect? Because I don't know them.
Oh, I mean, many of these parents they've got PTSD. They're struggling, and they're struggling with their jobs. They're being ostracized.
In other words, it's all pain.
It's all pain.
It's all pain. But suffering brings us closer to God. That's what wisdom would say, right? So therefore, it's worth it.
Well, it's worth it because they stood up for their kids. And they know what's important.
And also, I'd love to know, as their children grow up, how their children views that experience.
Yes.
Because they'll admire their parents more.
They should.
I had Professor Rick from Florida Tech here on this program a couple weeks ago. Unbelievable man who's been fired from his job as a professor, and he's mowing lawns to pay the bills. But he says, my children need spiritual fulfillment as much as they need nourishment fulfillment.
Correct.
Very wise.
Right.
Another one of those things that evokes audible gasps from people.
Right.
Because I think doesn't it make people feel insecure? That's the other thing I want to ask you, is that you're doing something. People like these families. And the Border Patrol agent talked about the religion of apathy. In other words, by doing the thing, you're making people who don't do the thing feel insecure.
Right.
And I've actually observed people get emotional. It's a complex combination of emotions when they see someone they admire doing something and they themselves are not doing anything and they don't really have a good excuse. So have you ever observed that, witnessed that?
I got it a lot with homeschooling. I had a lot of people sort of resenting me because my homeschooling somehow passed judgment on them not homeschooling.
Just you being you.
Just me being a homeschooler, they felt judged.
Really?
Like, and it's funny because, look, I meet people where they are. That's what I try to do anyway. I know that home educating your children is better for you and for your children. I know that because I've seen it too many times, and because it's biblical. So and I want what's best for you, and I want what's best for your children. That's just the way that I roll. So, but so there is that. There's a little bit of.
I think that's a big one. I think that might be a big one, that people feel, insecure or threatened. This is James O'Keefe. You know me for exposing the truth and holding the powerful accountable. But today, I want to talk to you about protecting your own freedom, starting with your finances. Right now, the warning signs are everywhere. The Fed continues to print money, interest rates and inflation remain high, and everywhere you look, your hard-earned money just doesn't go as far as it used to. That's not your imagination, it's today's reality. If central banks are loading up on gold, why not you? That's why I've now partnered with American Independence Gold. They're veteran-owned, and proceeds from every sale go to Tunnel to Towers, supporting our first responders and heroes. And listen, right now, the first 50 customers get a $1,000 credit towards their account. That's right, $1,000 to help you get started protecting your wealth with real, physical gold. Don't wait for the next crisis. Go to O'KeefeMediaGold.com. That's OKEEFE MediaGold.com or 833-324-GOLD. Again, that's O'KeefeMediaGold.com or 833-324-GOLD. Take action, get the facts, and protect your future, because freedom isn't given, it's secured. This is James O'Keefe. Don't just watch history, own a piece of it.
Well, okay, we were going to start talking about this, right?
Yes,
so
maybe we can
come
end
full
on this.
Circle.
Come full circle.
So, when you're a celebrity and people admire you, they will come up to you and they don't know how to behave. A lot. Not all of them. Some of them are so insecure that they have to say, like, not great things about you. Like guys used to go up to Kevin and go, I thought you'd be bigger. And he's like, yeah, I'm 6'3" and 130 pounds, 230. But you know what? It's, it's so stupid because they don't know what to say. And
they
because
say,
they're
Kevin
insecure,
Sorbo, I thought you'd be bigger.
Yeah. And that was when he was playing Hercules. That was when he was really big.
So what do you say in response?
So I actually taught him to say thank you.
You just say thank you.
Thank you. And then if they meant it as an insult, they would have to defend insulting him. No,
Wow.
Right? Or if they didn't mean it as an insult, then it wasn't taken as an insult, and they could go and not feel so bad about themselves, because people don't know how to behave. And that's normal.
Especially in the face of a public figure. They do a weird thing, don't they?
There's a shift, right? It's not a normal relationship. And I meet reporters or news anchors, right? And I want to be on their show. So there's this other element in the meeting.
You want something.
Oh, hi, it's so nice to meet you, right? There's just this other element.
There's an element of artifice, I think, in when I interact with members of the public who want a picture with me. They usually want something from me.
And they'll say really degrading things about themselves or about
you. It's horrible.
Right?
I'm so glad you brought this up. I know we only have 5 minutes, but I could talk about this with you for an hour. I find this fascinating. They say horrible things, and they usually say something to the effect of, like, I was at a speech, I won't say where because they're going to take this personally, and they're not bad people, but they'll say, you look completely exhausted.
Oh, that.
And I'm sure you've got this. And usually this will be
you look so much older.
This is an obese person talking about how I don't look that bad. I mean, I guess I look a little tired because I work 100 hours a week. And I thought about saying, well, you look lazy or you look fat. It's like, why do people talk about your appearance when their appearance is horrible? So that's the first thing. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the thing is, you have to give people grace,
You have
because
to.
you come with some excess baggage, which is the fame or whatever you want to call it. It's the known
Well, you
entity
can't even
of yourself.
you can't even say that you're famous because they'll look at you
Right,
as
but
self-aggrandizing.
you come with that. You come with this known entity. And so your
Notoriety.
job, seriously, your job, because you have to protect your reputation also, your job is to be gracious. Your job is to say, well, thank you. And even if it's like the most insulting thing, and by the way, and I truly believe this, chances are they don't mean to insult you. They're not looking
Not most of them.
to insult you. And if they are, you shouldn't give them the satisfaction. So it works out to the same thing.
Saying thank you and genuinely smiling is probably the best you can do. It is sometimes hard.
Yeah.
Because what you don't want to do is
Well, it'll catch you off guard too.
Well, I don't want to come across as insincere or phony. So I'll have a lot of people sometimes they say, "Can I get a picture?" And I'll say, "Sure, absolutely." I say, "You must hate this, don't you?" And I say, "Please don't say that. Please don't say that. I don't hate this. I want it. Even if I have 10 seconds with you,
Yeah.
I want it. Where are you from? Rochester. Oh, my mother's from Rochester. Like I want to have some grace and
Right.
But it's very tough because they'll try to make it awkward. They'll say the weirdest, damnedest, most uncomfortable things. And I think it's too because
And you're stuck. I think part of the problem is you're stuck because you can't take it there. You can't let it go there.
No.
Because it has to be copacetic.
you have to
it
take
has
the
to
beating.
be nice.
You have to take the beating
and so
say,
you just put up.
"You look horrible. Thank you so much. It's so nice to you have
Right.
and you have to do it and this is not easy. This is actually the hardest part. By the way, the hardest part of my job is not going in undercover and meeting with gay guys in DC. No. It's taking photos in a line because you don't want to lose your soul. Yeah.
Right.
So, what's the best way people can support your efforts? Is it a 501c3 you're working on?
We do have a 501c3. It's on my website, samsorbo.com. And all the information is there. The dossier of the targeted parents are there. If you are a targeted parent, you can join our cause. We are considering now a class action lawsuit or some such thing. I'm not a legal person, but these parents need some representation. They need some restitution.
There's the website. samsorbo.com is
That's
the website. You have a show. You have a nonprofit. And I'd like to talk to you offline about muckraking on the school boards and doing FOIA requests on body cameras. And I'm going to borrow a line from Mike Malice, who I admire. What was your favorite part of our conversation today? What was your favorite thing to talk about? Because I might have you back on.
I really liked going into the degradation of our entire culture. That seems to be my theme these days, is trying to wake people up. And we can turn it around in a generation if we don't put our children in school. It's really that simple.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
What is your price? Because if your price is not your life, then you are for sale.